What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of the StarletBusa series. So today we're going to start it off with a little bit of story time, kind of get you guys back into the beginning of the Starlet project and get you guys caught up on where we are at this point. So to start the story, we're going to go back about 5 years, the summer of 2015. I was 15 and a half years old and I needed my first car. And being the son of a Ferrari mechanic and somebody that modified cars a lot, I knew that I wanted something fun and easy to modify and something that we could have a little bit of fun with in the future. And one of the first cars that my dad and I had talked about at the time was a BMW wagon, rather a 3 or 5 series. And we kind of started looking, and the prices just were a little bit out of my range as, you know, a 15 and a half year old just getting my license. And one of the days my dad randomly just says, well, what about a Starlet? And I really at the time had no idea what he was talking about. I'd never even heard of a Starlet. And so I kind of started looking into it, and I kind of fell in love right off the bat. And it just made so much sense. I mean, you got a rear wheel drive from the factory, small, light hatchback. It was made by one of my favorite car companies outside of Ferrari, Toyota. I think Toyota makes really, really good cars. I think they always have. I think they make really good engines for the most part, and so it kind of just made sense. So we started looking for a Starlet. We looked at a couple up in Inland Empire, a couple other places. Didn't really like any of the ones that we saw originally, and I found one on Craigslist up in LA, and we went and looked at it at 8 o'clock at night, which is totally not supposed to happen when you're looking at cars. You're not supposed to go at night. You're supposed to go when you can see it in the daytime. And I didn't even have my license at the time. I wasn't an insured driver, so I couldn't even drive at home. But we bought this little yellow Starlet that I'm sitting in here today, and it's kind of just started from there. For a while, it was my first car. I drove it to high school. I really enjoyed the car. It was slow. I mean, it came from the factory with only 58 horsepower, so it wasn't exactly blazing fast. And at the time that we bought it, the carburetor had a bit of a problem. So one of the first upgrades that we did power-wise was DCNF Weber carburetor that we took off of my dad's Maserati biturbo, and that was kind of cool. It made really interesting, cool intake noises, and I quite liked it actually. Car still wasn't very fast though. And we eventually kind of started talking about what we wanted to do for an engine swap, and didn't really have any kind of crazy ideas at first. And I saw, and I gotta give a shout out to this guy, a man named Michael Sanderson on YouTube. He had an orangish red Toyota Starlet with a Hayabusa motor in it, and he was ripping it around, doing hill climbs and all kinds of fun stuff with it. I believe he's based in New Zealand, and I kind of just was like, wow, that engine sounds like a lot of fun. And my dad and I kind of started looking into it. So before we kind of started doing a lot of the power upgrades and thinking about doing an engine swap, I actually met Martin, who at the time was working at Parts Shop Max, and he helped me do the coilovers that are actually still in this car at the time. And we lowered the car down, stiffened it up, and made it go around corners a bit better. I put a Ferrari 550 Maranello sway bar in the back, stiffened up the roll, make sure that the car cornered flatter, smoother. It worked really well actually. And then we put new wheels and tires, of course. It's one of the first things that everybody wants to do to their car when they get it. And pretty soon Martin and I and my dad all talked about it. And Martin helped me, and we went down to Temecula, or I guess up to Temecula, however you want to look at it, and bought a 2008 Suzuki Hayabusa. Bought the full bike because we wanted to keep some of the electronics, the ECU. We actually wanted to use the instrument cluster, which is still in the car now. Love it. It's one of my favorite parts of the whole car, other than the engine itself. And then in late 2016, December, we took the car apart. And Martin and I together, not really me, but Martin, did a full TIG welded cage. Beautiful work. It was really fun to do, and kind of see, you know, kind of the skills and abilities that Martin brought to the table because this was before really OMD started. And Martin, this was one of the first projects that he ever actually really worked on with us over here at OMD. And it was a really cool thing to be able to experience and do with Martin. And then once we had that engine, Martin and I took it apart in literally less than a week after we bought it. We had the engine all out of the bike, took the entire wiring harness out, and started doing planning for putting it in this car. For a while, it went on the back burner. I started college. Martin and my dad started doing other things together. Started OMD as an actual company, and had some other plans and projects that we were working on. So this car just kind of got set on the back burner for a year and a half, 2 years. And in last year, 2018, we finally got kind of back onto it. Martin built a absolutely beautiful header system for it. 321 stainless to make sure that we're keeping up with really good quality material, so that when we turbocharge it, we're not going to have any overheating issues on the headers. They're not going to melt or have any huge issues. And then my dad just kind of started working on to a lot of the other stuff, including the CNC machine shifter, all the pedals, doing the finishing of the wiring, making the binnacle for the instrument cluster. And we just kind of started finishing a lot of this stuff up, and we got the car working middle of 2019, and it was unbelievably fun to drive. My dad and I put over 2,000 miles on it from then till now. We've fixed a couple of issues here and there. The whole point of putting the engine in for the first time was to test the engine, test the shifter, and make sure all of this package worked well before we went too crazy with the suspension and turbo and all the other stuff that we had planned for this car. And we kind of just had so much fun that we just kind of kept driving the car and really enjoyed it. A lot of people lost to it on the streets, so that was really fun. And now we're just kind of getting back to it. We're going to take the car apart again. Just yesterday we got the engine taken out of it, and the plans now is to take the engine and transmission apart and replace the old OEM transmission with a new Nova Racing Transmissions wide ratio gear set. The reason that we want to do this is really important to us is that because of the way that the gearing is set up in the bike transmission and links to the car with a drive shaft and a rear diff, the car is not very fast top speed. In a bike it'll do over 200 miles an hour at the end of 6. In our car right now it only goes about 130 miles an hour. And on the freeway, when you're going 70 miles an hour cruising speed, the car ends up being at over 7,000 RPM and just is wailing and attracting a whole bunch of attention. So we're going to put a wide ratio, drops the ratio for 6th gear, make sure that we have a higher top speed, as well as dropping the engine RPM on the freeway, which will attract a hell of a lot less of attention. And keep us away from getting in trouble with this car too much, which is always a positive. One of the things that we need to be able to focus on if we're going to try and street drive this car. And then also top speed wise, if we're going to be doing Pikes Peak, not only do we have that top speed to stretch on the straight parts of the track and on any track that we go to other than Pikes Peak, but we also have longer ratios for the turbo that we're planning on putting in it, because as everybody knows, turbos create real long, nice flowing power bands. And if you have a long gearbox, if you have long ratios where you can just really pull through those gears, it just makes the car faster and better and more efficient. So that's kind of the plan for that. With the transmission, we took the entire engine and everything out yesterday. I'll show you guys some footage of that. today we're going to head over to Mauro's shop and have Mauro at MD Performance Tuning. He's a specialist in all kinds of motorcycles, but specifically Ducatis. He's going to be, really helpful for me to be able to learn, more about bikes and how the bike transmission and engine all works together. So that's very thankful for him, and that should be really fun. Performance tuning. We're going to take apart the Hayabusa motor. We're going to be able to fix the transmission clatter that we've been having, and also install our new Nova Racing wide ratio gear set, try and achieve that higher top speed and drop the engine RPM on the freeway, make some less noise, keep the attention away from the cops. So we're going to be doing that today. We cheated a little bit last night when we took off oil pan already. I wanted to take our first look at the engine and kind of see what we were working with, see how everything was doing, and we'll get into it.
Okay, you can grab that, but be careful. Don't put too much pressure because we don't want to crack anything. Backwards, probably. Backwards.
It's like flexing.
Oh, this one is separating. You can see it here. Yeah, don't. See all the halves. 1, 2.
Okay, so we got the engine and transmission all apart. As you guys can see, in a bike, you actually got to split the whole bottom case of the engine off, which means you can see the entire crank here, pistons and rods up in there. But we actually realized what's kind of funny is our noise was actually not related to our transmission. You guys can see the original gear set here is all actually in working order. Everything looks fine, nothing looks like a problem. But what we realized was that when we took the clutch apart last time, we rather didn't torque it all the way, or one of the people that was driving it was clutch kicking it quite a bit, and these bolts weren't all the way tight. I took it out this morning, and so that clearly was touching on the outer rim of this bolt here and making contact with that when the clutch wasn't pushed in, and that was making our noise. So now that we figured that out, we're going to get to putting the new gear set in and see how that goes. So as you guys can see, we're going to take apart the old gear set and reinstall the bushings.
That's actually backwards. It's actually here, here, here.
The gear should definitely be a little bit different in size because there is a change to each gear. So
and this. Okay. So now
think we're gonna have to go to
our shop and use the tool.
yes. See the I think that's a seal. And this will be interesting too.
They were talking about a seal because that's one of the things that Nova was worried about and why they took so long. Is where that was located in Gen 2 is different than Gen 1. And so that seal location is one of the things that they were.
So, that being said, let's see. This bushing should go here, and it fits perfect. This bushing should be here, so we put it in the middle then, and it fits perfect. Okay.
This one doesn't have a bushing. This bushing should fit here.
Yeah. So make sure it fits.
It's perfect.
So now we can show the difference between one and another. This is the OEM, this is the other one. Look at the difference in square dog bones, the square engaging dogs and the rounded engaging dogs. See the difference? Besides one being lighter than the other, you can see the instead of being flat, this is rounded, which is gonna be better.
It'll allow for a lot less wear and tear on the things that we were already talking about how it's some wear smacking the.
Exactly. See this? Look at the difference.
Real round edges.
Round and square.
Round and square. Interesting.
And you can see huge difference in. It'll be nice to see what weight.
Yeah, they definitely saved a decent amount of weight in this transmission from the old gear set to the new. And it's with the pushing in it.
Oh yeah. We don't know. We don't have to weight it. I think I have a.
We have a scale at the shop we can bring back.
Yeah. Put it in the. Open the.
And as you guys can see, after we finished assembling, we put the entire shaft as well as all the gears into a bucket. This rag is covered in engine oil, keep it nice and clean and rust free. It's a good thing to make sure you do that with all of your stuff if you're not ready to put it in for a couple days. Make sure you don't have any problems in the future. We finished up for today. We got both of the gear sets, both shafts assembled for the most part. We got to buy some main bearings. We got to buy a couple of circlips to replace the ones that were on the OEM parts. Other than that, I want to say thank you to Mauro for all the help that he gave for me today. It was a lot of fun just kind of taking the car apart and seeing, not only the car but the transmission all apart was kind of an interesting experience for me to learn more. So that's gonna be it for this episode, and we'll see you guys back in episode 2.